Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. I've got a very special guest with me here today. This is Tim from Military Arms Channel. He's been hanging out with us for a couple of days doing some filming. It's been so much fun, and anytime we get Tim down, we love to do gripes and 5 guns video. So we've got a 5 guns video for you today. He brought his Ross rifle down, and we got to thinking, hey, what would be like the top 5 actions? Like weird military rifle actions, like an odd mechanism or something like that. We thought about making this a top 5 straight pulls, but we didn't really have access to as many straight pulls as we wanted. But we do have some really quirky actions here we're going to go over and show you here. If you guys want to learn more about gunsmithing and firearms technology in general, definitely check out SDI. They are a great group of people. If you have unused GI Bill, Sonoran Desert Institute, they've got great online gunsmithing programs. You can learn a lot about different firearms technologies. A great group of people there. So check them out if you want, and look into their programs more if you want to learn more of this type of stuff. So without further ado, though, we're going to look into these. So let's go ahead and start out with your Ross here on the end.
Yeah, since you already mentioned it.
Yeah.
So the Ross rifle is a really cool Canadian rifle. And this rifle was developed during World War I. Actually, it was a target rifle before that, I believe. But it was developed to be used for the Canadian military because they had asked England for permission to build the Lee Enfields under license, and they were told no. And so they had to come up with their own rifle. So this is a Canadian indigenous rifle that was developed to arm Canadian troops during the First World War, the Great War. And what makes this rifle unique, I can't really say unique because there's other straight pulls, but it has an odd characteristic. So it's a straight pull rifle. You pull the bolt to the rear, and what you're going to notice right away is this really odd lug, right? You have 2 lugs on either side. It almost looks like a big screw that's had the top shaved off.
Like a buttress thread or something.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. So when this bolt goes home, this big screw head rotates into locking recesses in the top of the receiver and the bottom. And the rifle kind of had a bad reputation for one reason. Now they're known for pretty decent accuracy, but they had a bad reputation because when you field strip the rifle, it disassembles much like other rifles. You just take I have a bad finger here. You take your magazine shut off, push it forward just a little bit there. Yep. Magazine shut off, put it at half mass, and there's your bolt. You can take it apart. Now you can disassemble the bolt even further, but in doing so, you run the risk of putting it together wrong. What happens if you give a troop the option of putting something together backwards?
He's going to.
They're going to do it, right? And if that happens, this gun can fire without the bolt locked in the locking recesses. Now, I think the guys over at InRange TV, or maybe Forgotten Weapons, probably InRange TV because that's more up their alley. Ian and Carl, I think, took one of these rifles that had been sporterized and completely destroyed from the collector's market, and they fired it while the gun was put together wrong. I haven't seen the video, but people told me about it in one of my other videos. And apparently the bolt didn't come all the way out. It was captured by the rear of the receiver, so it wouldn't fly completely out. But if you take a look at where that bolt lands...
Still scary, though.
It is scary. I'm going to try to put this together. It will snap back on you, just like it did there.
Yeah, be careful.
And I already got a bum finger from...
Yeah, I know. That's another exploit for another day. I'll check in the description box below for a full video on what happened to Tim's finger.
All right, let me try to get those rails lined up there. Oh, it just popped.
I did it. Right. Yeah, these rifles are really quirky. They're a lot of fun, and the Rosses were really known for their high level of accuracy. The troops generally favored them quite well. A lot of sharpshooters used them. Really cool gun.
I mean, they're really capable sights, right? Mm-hmm. You had a really coarse rear V-notch for close-in combat. You could flip it up, then you have an aperture sight that you can increment up to ridiculous ranges. And so it's really interesting. But I wanted to go further and say that even though the rear of it's captured, if it fails, if your thumb's here,
bad day.
Look what's going to happen to your thumb, and if your face is there, you're going to get a cheekbone cracked. So if they were put together incorrectly, and if you do have one of these guys, if you don't know how to put it together, if it's sitting in the closet and you don't know what it is, you do need to make sure that the gun is safe to shoot, that it's put together correctly, because it is very dangerous if it is not.
Yep.
And it chambers 303 Brit.
Yeah, and because these rifles are chambered in 303 British, make sure that you also have a competent gunsmith check the headspace on these rifles before you fire them, because 303s are known for being throat burners, and they are known for really developing excessive headspace. A lot of the Enfields, like in fact, if we pull this bolt back, tell me, is there a number on that bolt? On the top? There should be a number.
You're asking the guy that has bad eyes. Take a look. I got my flashlight here.
Yeah. See a number?
There's a, it looks like it maybe acceptance mark. Is that a 3?
Yeah, see, so a lot of times what they'll have is increment bolt heads on a lot of these British service weapons. And
you'll definitely see it on the Lee Enfields.
Yes, absolutely. So that's something you want to keep in mind. But definitely a quirky action, being a straight pull. You know, you don't have to turn a bolt and expose yourself. It's just a straight pull action, really smooth action, which is just really awesome.
And there's many different variations of this gun I'm not going to get into. And then there are also civilian rifles that were manufactured that weren't .303 British, that were in target calibers that you would find. They're pretty common in Canada, not so much so here in the United States.
All right, we're going to move on to the Jungmann. All right, this is an AG-42. We have done a full video on this rifle, and this is neat because it's a magazine-fed semi-auto, and this is a really odd action because it's one of the earliest type of direct gas impingement rifles that there really is. Okay, yeah, you set that there, Tim. Okay. Basically, when we talk direct gas impingement, gases are driven rearward through a tube that literally just impart right on the front of the bolt and drive it to the rear. It's literally direct gas impingement, okay? And it's a really weird, quirky action, like the way you have to draw the bolt to the rear, you have this sliding dust cover, you have to push forward, and then it locks into place. And then, look, it's like floating back and forth. Like, that's weird. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you can smash your finger if you're not careful. Yeah. Watch, I'll show you this. So if you have it shut, all right, like this, and you don't want to withdraw the round, you can just put your finger here and then decompress it gently.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's another thing. So, you know, it's kind of strange. So what you can do is say that the rifle's loaded and you don't want to remove the magazine and remove the ammo. You can actually dry cycle the ammo by putting the rifle on safe, okay? And then it'll still strip the rounds out manually. So you can draw the carrier forward, extract the round from the chamber, and then you can go, and it'll draw the rounds out of there. So it's a really quirky action. And the Jungmann's also known as being a real finger banger. I mean, this thing will, so like right here, watch here. Oh, look out. Oh, oops.
Pull it back. There's
your finger.
Yep. Worst of the Grand by far. The rifle's really cool, and why he kept trying to drive home the point of its true direct gas impingement, because the gas is impinging directly on the face of the bolt. The M16 AR-15 is not a true direct gas impingement. It's a hybrid. It's an internal piston design where gas is diverted into an expansion chamber, and the bolt and carrier spring away in line with the bore to cycle the rifle. So it's, you know, we call the AR-15 M16 direct gas impingement, and it kind of sort of is, but it's really not.
Sort of isn't.
This is true DI. So that's why it's significant, and then it has that really goofy action.
Yeah, it's a goofy, and these things are really accurate. All right, so we're going to move on to rifle number 3. All right, we've got a Schmitt Ruben. This is an 1889 Schmitt Ruben, 7.5 by 53.5 millimeter. For those of you paying attention, all right, GP90, not the 1890 or not 1990 either. Okay, so uses a really early cartridge. Okay, and it's a straight pull mechanism, okay? Now the Schmitt Ruben and variants of the Schmitt Ruben went through a heck of a lot of design changes. Many more than we can discuss in this particular video. Now, I have a video discussing those changes if you want to check it out, but it's a straight pull. So what do you see here in this really odd action? This is another odd action. You have your locking lugs, you have your camming surface, you have your bolt mechanism. Gosh, what is this starting to kind of favor a bit? Almost an AR bolt if you think about it. I mean, now, granted, the locking lugs here are on the rear of the bolt, which on the newer rifles has changed to the front of the bolt.
Yep.
All right, but you have an external sleeve with locking lugs, a camming surface. You have a bolt a bolt handle that when you pull imparts camming forces on the bolt and pulls it to the rear and unlocks the sleeve, okay, which contains the locking lugs. So the sleeve is the only thing that physically unlocks from the action, from the locking lugs inside of the action. The internal bolt mechanism physically stays in the same position for every single shot. Really quirky action. I mean, look at that receiver.
Yeah, the receiver's cool, and what's really cool is the rear sight. I love these roller coaster sights of the old guns because back in the day, the cartridges, we didn't have 3,000 feet per second cartridges back in the early military at the turn of the century, right? Until they started using cordite and stuff like that, you know, we had to basically use volley sights.
Yeah.
Because it's truly almost an indirect fire weapon.
It's pretty random to think about. So, you know, not only is the action weird, okay, so each shot you're going to pull straight back and straight forward, but then also the safety is really weird. Look, you got this ring that pulls to the side, locks it in, locks the action shut, and it won't fire. So you can have a round in the chamber, be walking around, you're ready to shoot. Really, really quirky action.
And a lot of these features carried over into later generations, the 1911 and the K31 and stuff like that. And I want to clarify, cordite and Spitzer bullets and things like that contribute to getting bullet velocities up.
Oh, so. Yeah, absolutely. You know, the early ammunition that these 1889s fired was like a round nose, used really crude powders, which just weren't capable of the velocities that we can get out of modern powders. I would say the performance of this cartridge is very similar to 30-40 Krag.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is kind of a weakling by today's standards, you know. 30-40 wasn't a terrible gun, but anyway, to move on in the video, a really weird action, all right? So our fourth action is going to be another strange action. It's also a straight pull. This is a Steyr M95. Okay, check that out.
I love these guns. These are really, really cool because they have like a little internal clip, and it's a true clip, that holds 5 rounds that you push down inside, and as you run the gun and fire it, when it becomes empty, right here at the bottom, that little clip falls out, and then you can put another one in. And if you look inside,
yeah, it's a little stiff.
You can see the follower right there. Maybe you guys can see it, maybe you can't. But yeah, what's really cool about this rifle is it's short, handy. It's a 8 by 56 millimeter bar rimmed cartridge. And it was made before the turn of the century. It's 1895, so the design predates the 1900s. I think it's really cool here. You know, you have this upturned on the area on the striker that's knurled. You can put your thumb there, pull the trigger, and ease that home. If you want to cock it, you just pull back. But it's lightweight, fires a thumper of a cartridge.
Oh, yeah.
And it's rumored, and maybe you know this, how true this is or not, but even during World War II, German mountain troops kind of favored the rifle because of its short, handy nature.
They did. These were used by the Wehrmacht in various configurations, but they did use the short version quite a bit. And, you know, this one's been refurbished. This is actually a converted gun from an original 1895 long rifle to a carbine. You can see that the stock's been relined here, different serial numbers. So this was a refurbished gun that would have been cut back and used.
I was going to say, it looks like an Arsenal refurbishment.
It is an Arsenal refurbishment. Yeah. Recoil on them really is stout.
It's such a light rifle. You have to hold it to appreciate just how short, light, and handy the rifle is.
Yep. Really neat. And this is actually one of the first straight pull guns I ever owned. I've had this rifle, gosh, 15 years.
And this is something we were pondering earlier when we were talking about straight pull actions. I think they make more sense than your traditional Mauser type action with a rotating bolt because it's so fast just to reach up and pull and fire. I mean, you watch Olympic shooters, they're using straight pull 22s that they can quickly manipulate, just take their hand, and the same thing to a degree applies to these. So there's some reason that these fell out of favor and the Mauser continue on to be probably what most of we would consider to be the ultimate evolution of the bolt-action rifle before militaries moved into self-loading firearms.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of the whole straight pull myth also kind of goes more towards, I think they were more expensive to make, and the training disposition that it required to teach soldiers how to use them might have been harder to train troops on how to use them, but I'm going to venture more towards the cost end. I just think the Mausers and the turn bolts were so much cheaper to make, easier to mass produce. You know, you look at the Swiss rifles like the Schmitt Rubens, the K31s, and all of the straight pull rifles that fall under the Schmitt Ruben lineage. It really is crazy to think that, you know, they kept a straight pull service rifle for as long as they did. Because you know they're not cheap to make.
Right. That and the intricacy of the bolt of these Schmitt Rubens and K31s and 1911s. I mean, taking them apart. You know,
it's a heck of a lot more to machine this bolt than it is to make a Mauser bolt.
There's so many finely machined parts inside there. It's just unreal.
All right, so this is not the last, but this is number 5 on our list of weird actions. Now, I had a 30-40 Krag that we were going to put in this video, but we decided to put a trapdoor just because it is a really quirky rifle. So this is a Springfield Trapdoor. And, you know, on the exterior, if you don't look close, it almost just looks like a front stuffing musket. But it's actually a breech-loaded 4570, use the original black powder 4570 round. Your hammer goes to half cock. I'm going to go ahead and put it on second position. There's three different positions. That's probably more of your carry position, and then this is your loading position, so that you can load it with the hammer not being on full cock, and then your full position is to fire. But you have a lever here, you push forward, it unlocks in the rear, and the breech hinges up and forward.
And it's really cool. So you'll take a live round and drop it in here, throw it forward, flip that closed, and lock it, pull it to full cock, boom, fire. When you flip this, you got to cock the weapon again, flip this forward. But what's really neat is that cartridge, it's all the way in the breech. This hinging mechanism will extract that cartridge and flick it right out of the port. And it's really cool to watch it happen, because it would seem like almost an impossibility that something just hinging this way would be able to draw that case out and effectively clear it reliably.
The fact that you have to hinge it all the way forward. I mean, when folks are, if you watch like cowboy action or any, you know, some folks shoot these in cowboy action, but when you watch people load and shooting these pretty fast, you'll notice that when they fire, boom, they'll just go ahead and cock all the way and throw, put a new round in, close it, and you're ready to shoot at full cock. In combat, that's how you probably would have ran the gun. You wouldn't go, all right, let me go to 2 cocks. All right, now we're going to load it, close it, now full cock. No. In combat, if you're already trained on a target, you know, you would cock it all the way, out, in, shoot, boom, cock it all the way.
Yep.
That's how you'd run.
And it seems like, you know, the manual of arms is such that they could fire pretty effectively. And what's interesting is when this went into U.S. military service, there were lever actions that were like the volcanic and stuff like that were already developed, yet the Army went ahead with the trapdoor system versus, you know, what we would think to be a faster weapon, because during the Civil War, you remember the Henry rifle, the darn Yanks had that rifle they could load on Sunday and shoot all week. So, you know, even though that technology existed, the Army went with this probably for the simplicity's sake, because that's a very simple mechanism.
Yep.
But as you said, it looks just like a muzzleloader.
It's slow to reload, but it offered really good power, and the 4570 is still a really awesome round that people really love. So speaking of Henry, we're going to go to our wild card for this video, which is going to be the Bede Early. All right, so this is another Swiss rifle. Okay, this is another Swiss rifle that sort of takes a bit of lineage.
I love that sight.
And again, you've got, this is low velocity, so you got really crazy volley sights on this. But the Bede Early also takes its lineage. I mean, look at this. So we've got a bolt action mechanism that advances a loading gate, just like you would see on a lever action rifle, like an old Winchester or an old Henry from the day or something like that. You know, you would traditionally you'd have a lever, right, that would cock the hammer and then draw the lifter. There's a tubular magazine under here that you load the cartridges in, and they go up, advance through this carrier, and then
out goes the empty.
Out goes the empty, and then when you close the bolt, you chamber the new round, and then the lifter goes back down to the down position. So it's a lever action on the bottom, but with a bolt action mechanism on the top. So it's almost like a Winchester and a Henry and a, I don't know, weirdo turn bolt.
It makes for a very steampunk looking firearm, you know?
Yeah, they're just really weird.
Cool. And I always love these, what I call roller coaster sights. I always get a kick out of it. Last time I was out, I believe we took this out, and this isn't something you're going to run down to your local sporting goods store and buy ammo for.
No.
This is stuff that Eric home rolls, and it was a real treat to shoot this thing. It's a thumper, man. This thing is really fun to shoot, and it hits with authority. How heavy is the bullet?
I think this one uses like a 340 grain bullet. I had to have the mold custom made for it, and what we do for brass is we use 8mm Lebel cases, and we cut them down. Really interesting stuff. So that's our wild card, is the Bede Early. Really weird action, something you don't really see every day. Guys, thank you for watching today's video. We really appreciate it. Tim, thanks for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me again, man.
Dude, of course. Love coming on. Make sure you subscribe to Tim here at Military Arms Channel. Great resource, great channel, really good information. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you next time. Many more videos on the way.